All right, everyone. I have another one of my heroes here with me at LitRPG Con, the first annual. I have to say that. I feel like I need to put 2025 in everything that I say from now on because there will be more. But I have one of my heroes with me, Neil Hellegers.
Hello.
Hi there. And but I am fortunate to have just a star-studded lineup of people that we're going to be doing interviews with, and I want to find out more about you, Neil.
Okay.
I wasn't to stay around personally. I know more about you, but I want them to know more about you.
We'll get in deep.
Yeah, so if you could, just tell us your name, which I already covered, and what you're best known for in this industry.
Hello, I'm Neil. I am an actor, narrator. I live in Brooklyn, New York City. I've done a bunch of different kinds of acting, but my real bread and butter and kind of lifeline the past 12 years or so has been audiobook. And so within Gamelit, I'm probably best known for Good Guys, Bad Guys, Grim Guys by Eric Hugland, Rise of Mankind by Jez Caggio. And I mostly narrate, I would say percentage-wise, most of what I do is Gamelit or LitRPG. But I also do the occasional nonfiction, poetry, literary fiction, other kinds of stuff as well too. But Gamelit has been a really kind of important part of the work that I do, and I'm glad to be here at this kind of really amazing event. Everyone's kind of like, wow, this worked, huh? You know?
Yeah.
And I've been actually participant in some the build up to this, the previous cons where Gamelit was an aspect of Dragon Con or Jordan Con, and kind of working through all those iterations to kind of develop what worked and what didn't work, along with the organizers. And I'm happy to be here and to be involved and have like stuff to do. I'm always better at when I have stuff to do at events. You know?
Andrea and I were talking about that this morning, about how this is a working conference for you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are really helping to put it on. Right?
Yeah.
You're not just sitting on panels, right?
Yeah.
You're moderating panels. You're doing variety shows. And,
Yes.
So speaking of those panels, is there a panel that you did over the last 3 days that you either moderated or sat on that you were really excited about and had a great time?
Just this morning we did it was like an Ask Me Anything panel with a number of narrators that Andrea moderated, and it was, she came with a few things to talk about, but we covered quite a lot about what we do in terms of and between that and from questions of the participants in the room, it was the kind of conversation where this is the kind of stuff that narrators talk about all the time, but in this context. I learned a lot from listening to the other narrators, and it was a nice kind of like moment of honesty about the mechanics of what we do, but how weird it is sometimes. How we like it. There's on one hand there's funny voices, on the other hand there's a lot of emotion, and how we kind of make all those things work together. It was just a good conversation about what we do and how it relates to Gamelit, but mostly just narration in general. And we had another panel on Thursday, that was Voices in My Head, that was more specifically about talking about developing Gamelit characters and talking about some of our techniques and approaches, wherein we discovered that almost everyone is doing slime books. Slime books are the big thing in 2025.
That's
Maybe
right.
not. Sentient slimes, specifically.
And some really interesting voices for those as well.
Yes, yeah. But all different. Every narrator, also like they're just hashtag not all slimes, are all like, they're different characters, not just like all the same personality. And so that leads to different vocal characteristics. And I'm in the midst of like prepping a book that I did the first book of like a few weeks ago and scheduled the other one to record this week and next week. That has a really fun sentient slime.
So I promised Neil that this would be a quick interview, but I have to say, speaking of vocal characteristics, more than any other narrator that I've ever interviewed or known, Neil really gets into, and I keep coming back to the conversation we had about the kobolds from the, as Eric calls it, the Guys series, right?
The Guys series, yeah.
So and about how the amount of thought that goes into, okay, well, this person is from a different region, right? Do you want to talk a little bit about your kobold experience?
Yeah, when faced with any number of characters, even non-human ones, when I have to make a voice, so the main goal of which is to make that character distinct so the listener knows exactly who's talking at all times, but also to kind of fulfill their purpose, like their meaning is driven by their character. But it also involves, finding some distinct voices and that are maybe also fun, fitting the tone of it. And there were the kobolds, little dragonkin, right? That are in the good guys, and well, they're the bad guys too. Something about the way they were talking, and I was trying to think of what are the dragonkin voices landed on French accents. Is it these little guys, and then they run away because they're French, they run away. But it just seems like they're cute and weird, and there's different kind of kobolds, and some of them have more refined French accents. And then I carry that into when we meet dragons in the series. They are also like the most majestic French you would ever hear, because they're dragons, but not the kobolds, And so I had this idea and I proposed it through email to Eric, and he said, like it, go with it. But then basically started writing that voice into the kobolds moving forward. And it is one of the great things about working in game land. It happens sometimes in other books or even traditional publishing, but in my experience, nowhere near as often or as closely, where it's, they're Eric's books. No doubt about that, and I'm here to serve those books. But it does become something of a collaboration.
Absolutely.
Like any good theater, really, is always a collaboration. It's the sum of all the creativity involved, and the more, really, the better. In this case, it's one narrator, one author. It's the two of us, but it's been a really great experience, and that's also true for Jez Caggio's Rise of Mankind. We have lots of talks about who all these different people are, where they're from, what they sound like. It's a mix of people from all over the Isles, the British Isles, and so, but also different characters and different kind of things. And I treasure those conversations, because otherwise it is just me alone in a box.
Yeah.
And that gets harder really quick.
Well, Neil, I'm going to stick true to my word, and I'm going to go let you do some of the many things that you have to do here to close out the con. But I wanted to just say, or I wanted you to say where people can find you and anything exciting that you have coming up.
Sure. Neil Hellegers, if it's spelled somewhere in this posting, as far as I know, I'm the only one. So you can find me on most social media by doing that, or Van Hellegers, VanHellegers on TikTok. TikTok, where I don't do so much in terms of narrating work, but do a lot of Shakespeare in what's called original or Elizabethan pronunciation, the dialect that those would have been performed in at Shakespeare's time. So check those out. Otherwise, I just did the last book of Outcast from Another World by Kamikaze Potato for Podium. That's a fantastic series as well too, and it's a closed series. I just did the last book 7. Let's see what else. Rise of a Monster 2, a skeleton with a sentient slime inside him.
Nice.
And working on the third book of Jack Field's Walking Shadow series, which I do in a duet with Tess Irondale, that we're working on next month as well too. So yeah, glad to be busy, glad to be doing stuff, and glad to talk about it.
Thank you so much for taking the time.
Sure, thank you.
All right.